mark today. It's definitely the best moment to actually have you all guys today on this exciting topic, Bitcoin and blockchain. You know, my company is all about blockchain innovation in real estate. However, we're not talking about this topic that often. So I'm thrilled to have you here today as one of the folks that are actually utilizing the technology and the cryptocurrencies in the field in real estate transactions. Many of you are active agents or a broker owner. And so thank you so much for joining us today. And because we're more people in the room, let me start with questions, first questions, and then make sure you tell a little bit about yourself and tell your name, your company you're with. So the first question I want to start with Cherie and Scott, because I think that was one of the stories that actually provoked us to make this webinar at first place. And Cherie, Scott, welcome to our webinar. Share a little bit information about yourself. I saw your post on social media on a Facebook group where you said you have a current listing and your customer is requesting whether they can pay with Bitcoin. And of course, I can imagine how excited you were, but also frightened. And I saw so many agents commenting, trying to help you, or vice versa, trying to warn you. So please welcome to our webinar and please share more information about this story.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm Cherie, and this is Scott Goldsmith. And we have a mom and pop's real estate company in a small town called Brevard, North Carolina. And we got a call. Bitcoin is not big here. So we got a call from a potential buyer asking if our client would accept Bitcoin. So my first thought was, it's money, why not? What's the difference? Because I know nothing. So I immediately started asking questions on Lab Coat Agents. That's where we found you. Natalie responded. I think Piper may have responded. A few other people did. A lot of people advised us to run, that it was a scam and that we should be nervous and not even speak to this potential buyer. So that's where we are with this.
Thank you, Cherie. And definitely we'll dive into the story, see how it evolved since then. And you just mentioned Piper. Piper, welcome here. You have an amazing story. You're one of the first ones that actually transacted in Bitcoin in the United States. Please tell a little bit more about yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I did my first Bitcoin transaction.
Piper, I'm sorry to interrupt. The audio is a little bit off.
Oh.
Or the connection.
Let's see.
That's a little bit better.
A little better? Hold on. Let me try it. Can you hear me now?
It's better. Just if you maybe speak louder.
Oh, geez. Okay. Sorry about that. I had a microphone today, but I guess it wasn't taking very well. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, so I did my first transaction at the end of...
No, it's still not. And I know you had a webinar earlier today. It worked perfectly. Are you sure you have your mic close to you and nothing covers it?
No, yeah, it's hold on a second.
Yeah, now when you're closer, it's a little bit better. Okay, before we get to Piper, can you please share your interest in crypto? I know you're pretty deep there. Melissa?
Oh, yes. Hi. So I worked for a blockchain education company doing, more accessible and fun content to try and make this a little bit less dry for people that aren't super technical nerds. And then I've also been in property management, sales, leasing. I was a residential assisted living specialist. So I'm kind of all over the board. And if something's interesting, I try and learn about it. So I'm excited to see the ways that, this technology and Proppy can help with condos, these care homes, and other things like that that need help with their record keeping and transparency.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us today. Sarah was one of the first people that actually did a transaction on blockchain in the United States. That was the first transaction in Arizona, one of our first users at Proppy a few years ago. So Sarah, very, very thrilled to have you here today. Could you please share a little bit more information about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sarah Richardson. I'm the founder and CEO of Tru Realty. We're an independent-based primarily residential firm based in Arizona. We do cover the majority of the state of Arizona, though we do have agents all throughout the state. We're operating virtually for many reasons, mostly because of COVID. But we tested the Proppy platform. Gosh, it's been almost 2.5 years now, just because I'm very interested in blockchain and how it can help us ease the friction of a real estate transaction. And so we, with crypto in a bull market back then, and I know we had a dip and now we're back, thankfully we're back. That's probably why we're on the call today, but we wanted to test the technology to see, what we could do to ease the friction of a real estate transaction. And it was very easy to use. I'm sure we'll get into that as we start talking, but thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, fantastic. So I think that the first half of the conversation will be around Bitcoin and crypto payment, and then the other half about blockchain, because it's really important for those who are new in the industry to differentiate Bitcoin as a crypto method of payment and store of value, and blockchain that is a better, in some ways, database, but more or less it's almost like a database. So we want to differentiate those two items, and thus we'll first focus on the crypto payments. Piper, let's see if your audio works now.
Hopefully it's better. Is it better? Yay! Okay, I think it was all in my settings. So yeah, I can do multi-million-dollar transactions in Bitcoin, but I can't figure out my microphone apparently. So sorry about that. Yeah, so what was the question?
So the question is, tell us a little bit about yourself. When you did your first transaction?
Right, okay, so yeah, we started the process at the end of 2016 is when we went into escrow. And, I had a buyer just randomly find me online, wanting to buy a house in my area. And, we got to know each other, found him a house, and he said, okay, I'm going to buy this in Bitcoin. And I'd heard of it, and I just thought, oh, okay, let's try this. And I got the same reactions from my lender and a lot of other agents, like, it's never going to happen. You can't do this. It's, it might be illegal. Just have them, if he wants to, just have him, transfer his funds out and season the money. And, but we didn't have that kind of time. So, we ended up putting all of the pieces together. There was only one other transaction that was done up north in Tahoe. And I was trying to I just grabbed, all the pieces I could from that transaction and, used everybody down here to do it. And, we got an escrow company on board. We had to transfer the funds directly to the seller. We had to get them on board because escrow didn't want to touch it. And yeah, there was just so many hurdles, but we finally closed that deal at the beginning of 2017. And then I went on to do 4 more after that.
And Piper, you mentioned today on earlier webinar with Susie Truax that you have a new spike of requests in crypto. We observe it as well in Proppy. Almost every day we have requests to buy in crypto or to sell in crypto. They have different motivations, so we'll get there too today. What kind of requests do you have?
Oh my gosh, all over the place. My most recent one was in Mexico. And of course, they've got to go through a verification process, before we can even get to that point. Usually if it's a scam, it stops right at, I need to see the deed or some kind of tax paperwork or something, you know, I just need some kind of proof that they own it. But so the one in Mexico was totally legit. I just got a call from a guy in a small town in Colorado yesterday wanting to purchase some land with Bitcoin. We had a property that was listed a couple years ago in the Philippines. We've had people call from Panama wanting to sell land. The UK, all over the place. You know, it just varies.
Cherie and Scott, what is, on your opinion, the motivation of your buyer?
I think for him, he was wanting to save the $5,000. That's the number he gave us. He said it was going to take about $5,000 to convert it to cash, right? Is that how that works? And so he was wanting to go directly from him to our seller. And so that was our issue in the beginning, because our seller we went to school together. And so obviously, as you can see, we're not 25. He's kind of nervous about anything concerning any sort of cryptocurrency or anything that he can't touch.
Yeah.
So that complicates things. So for us, the main thing was, okay, we've got a buyer, we've got a seller, how can we bring them together? And we got a lot of ideas on Lab Coat Agents. People said something like, you know, just deduct the $5,000 from, you know, his offer price and all those things. But you know how it is. People who have something of value want to be able to negotiate with their something of value, not convert it to something else and then negotiate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And again, a little bit to explain to our listeners, the case with Cherie and Scott in the transaction is that they have a buyer that holds cryptocurrency, they have Bitcoin. And now many of crypto holders actually got more capital in dollar value. And thus some of them are willing to invest in real estate or invest in other assets. And thus, there are more requests, and we saw that in 2017, on how you can use BTC, Bitcoin, to acquire a home. And of course, the most organic way is just to say, hey, buyer, why don't you exchange your Bitcoin to dollars and then just do the transaction with cash. So Cherie, what did you think, and did you suggest that your buyer said, well, when I transfer Bitcoin to dollars, there is a fee of $5,000, so I want to save that money. However, if the seller has to go through the same process, then the seller will pay the exchange fee. So what happened?
Well, we are still talking back and forth. Our seller is in Montana, so he's a little harder to get a hold of. But he basically, for him, he's like, get me the money that I want for my house, however you do it, you know. As long as I can count it out. Yeah, he doesn't want to be involved with the Bitcoin, but I mean, he would sell to someone who had it as long as he got cash in the end. Mm-hmm. So that's just one situation.
Piper, what do you normally recommend in such cases?
Well, I mean, you know, everybody wants to save that money, that fee, but it's just unless they did like an OTC transfer or something like that, I don't know how else to circumnavigate the exchange other than like through BitPay, you know, and they charge 2%, you know, so that's the problem right there. I was using a bank out of London that was charging 1%. I don't think they're around anymore, but there is another bank, I think in San Diego, who might be able to help. I have no idea what their fees are, but they're relatively new and they deal with crypto and fiat. So that might be, you know, another. It's just like it's still new, and especially with real estate, you know. So we're constantly trying to find ways to make it easier for people. Yeah, I mean, but there's going to be some kind of fee involved, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that it's totally fine if buyers actually request payment in Bitcoin. And I greet Cherie and Scott that you actually made this post. It brings more awareness, because they could be situations where the buyer motivation to use Bitcoin and the seller motivation to invest in Bitcoin can meet, because we have a number of requests from sellers, people that are owning investment properties, that now they see that Bitcoin is going up. They want exposure in crypto. And they ask us, how about you help me to sell this one property and get me Bitcoin so that it's easy, because it's hard for me to first sell it and then also learn how to own and how to exchange and so on. So there is once we have more and more transactions, we will have this the supply and demand sides meet, where the buyer can actually send money directly to the seller. And this would happen with Proppy first transaction, the first world transaction, where the cryptocurrency was sent from the buyer to the seller directly, and the smart contract play a role of an escrow. So the funds, the crypto was distributed to the owner of the property once it was recorded locally. So that was an exciting one. And really the property holder wanted to own cryptocurrency because he believed in cryptocurrency. He said, I will have more money in the pocket if I get cryptocurrency instead of the national currency. Melissa, what do you think about those situations?
I mean, I love hearing that because I'm a huge fan of crypto. And so I like seeing that's how it's supposed to work. The thing that I'm kind of curious about with the people that have successfully done a closing is, how did the taxes work with that? Because obviously the scenario that you're describing is going to be a little bit different than if you have to do it with an exchange of fiat and crypto. And I know that's not like our area of expertise, but did you have a hard time finding people to refer your clients to advise them? Because capital gains are confusing as it is, but then throwing this component in, like, that adds a whole new level, especially because some regulators see it as money and some see it as something that, you know, you have to pay as a capital gains.
Yeah, Piper, do you want to take this?
Yeah, honestly, you know, I'm really fortunate in that my clients so far have been very savvy and they've got amazing accountants. And so, I mean, they just, it blows my mind, like how they, you know, work it. But I mean, obviously he does pay taxes. It's all legal, you know, but yeah. And of course there's a capital gains, you know, when you cash out and all that. But I mean, he's got, you know, they've got properties all over the place, you know, and so, you know, some might offset, you know, some other, it just really depends, you know, on what the situation is. But I really highly advise getting a CPA that knows the tax code with crypto.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if people are going to be doing like 1031 exchanges with this too.
That'd be great. That would be awesome.
Like,
yeah.
Cool. Add all these layers of, like, you know, all these seminars that a lot of us that are more, you know, creative agents pay to go to, and then you can kind of see all of them linked together. So
that's the goal.
And of course, any of you that is willing to learn more, and especially on the tax implications, you can reach out to me so that I can recommend our CPA at Proppy. Then Piper can hopefully recommend her CPAs, and and there are also escrow companies that are crypto friendly. So we're happy to share that kind of information. Sarah,
Yes.
have you any requests for crypto purchases recently or during the previous hype?
Yes, oh yeah. We've gotten 3 inquiries from Northern California, all from Northern California investors, which seems to be, you know, the majority of the people that are moving here to Arizona are from Northern California, and they want to buy multifamily, and many of them are holding different kinds of coin, not just Bitcoin, Ethereum primarily, and Bitcoin, and they want to facilitate a transaction. At this point, it's me trying to find inventory that they can lock in a purchase contract fast enough to facilitate a transaction, but it's definitely coming. You know, I'm glad that I tested the platform. You know, gosh, I was just thinking, I think it's almost been 3 years. It's really close to that. not 2.5, because it took me, I remember when we wanted to test this, and we did fiat to fiat, we did a USD to USD. So we weren't dealing anything with crypto. I just wanted to make sure I understood the platform and how to use the smart contract. But it still took me 6 months from FNF, which was a Chicago title branch, in their legal team, just to get their head around a fiat to fiat smart contract transaction. So I'm really glad that, you know, at least we have somebody kind of on the sidelines in terms of title and escrow who's ready to go, that kind of understands this piece, because now they're starting to come in. Now they want to invest. And I think now that we can probably give them a good consumer experience, because before I would have been like, baptism by fire, you know. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not a technologist, and I speak like a 5th grader when it comes to this stuff in a lot of ways, which I think is a good way to relate to the consumer, but I need to at least still know what we're doing. So it's starting to happen. Yeah, I saw that 20,000 this morning. So it's really exciting.
Yes, definitely. It's very, very, very exciting. By the way, in the end of the webinar, we will be also announcing our winner for the Transparency Award. So we had this award for transparent and honest agents. For those of you who don't know, visit our social media accounts to learn more. And it's just a pure voting contest, because we want to embrace transparency and honesty. And consumers, they just vote for honest and transparent agent. But it's very relevant to the topic we're talking today, because blockchain is all about transparency, and Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin lives on top of the blockchain, and it is this technology is efficient just because it's all transparent. It's a transparent database where you can see how money in Bitcoin flow from one account to another account. So we really embrace the transparency in the financial world and real estate through this contest. Great. So Scott and Cherie, I know that when you hear Bitcoin for the first time, and Piper, you shared that as well, you think, oh my God, it's a scam. Did you think about that as a scam, and how many of those comments you received on Facebook that it was a scam? Was it like half of the comments?
I'd say it was a good part of the comments. People were saying it was a scam. And I've had scam calls before. You get that feeling. You kind of know this feels scamish. This didn't feel scamish. This was a guy that was, I think he was just trying to figure out if he could buy with his Bitcoin. You know, I felt like I said, we're waiting on him to call us back. We're doing the back and forth on the phone because we had to get a hold of our client in Montana, and we finally spoke to him. But I mean, my husband and I, first time we heard about Bitcoin was when our 23-year-old was 13. And he said, Mom, I want to invest in this. Mom, Dad.
We said that's a terrible idea.
We were like,
it was $10 a coin.
Yeah. So he was on the phone with me, right? He's in the Army now. He was on the phone with us right before we got on here. And he said, if you would have listened to your 13-year-old, you wouldn't even be selling real estate right now. So anyway.
Smart kid. Yeah, well, I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on how to detect scam right away, so that actually you can pay attention to those requests that are legit. So with Scott and Cherie, it seems like they had some first education, and Piper, all of you actually. Can you give one tip on how to determine whether it's a scam or not? Like, what is the first question you have to ask?
Well, for me, if it's, like I said, if it's a seller, you know, I ask for the deed. I ask for some kind of proof that they own the property. Obviously, you do that anyway, right? Especially, I mean, you know, here in California, you can, like, you know, look up the tax records or whatever. But if it's in another country, I need some, you know, something. If it's a buyer, you know, and I have a conversation with them. If it's, you know, Bitcoin, you know, one of the top 3, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, whatever, I kind of take them a little bit more seriously. But if it's some altcoin that no one's ever heard of before, and I look it up on, you know, CoinMarketCap or something, and it's not there, you know, just with a little bit of Googling, you can see that they're just trying to pull a fast one. And if they're really adamant about it, I'm like, look, I don't care what coin you have, you're going to have to transfer it to Bitcoin or, one of the top 3 anyway. So, if you're not willing to do that, the conversation kind of ends right there.
Yeah, so the first recommendation, especially if it's your first transaction, then it should be BTC, ETH, XRP, just the first top that people know, or just go with Bitcoin, limit yourself to the most known cryptocurrencies. If they insist on other coins, then probably it's a big red flag. Melissa, what do you think?
I mean, I get that point, but as someone who's a little bit more of a crypto nerd, like I would understand if somebody wanted to make a purchase in Monero because that's a privacy coin. So I agree with that point, but then I also kind of disagree with that point. Like as a crypto enthusiast, I see Bitcoin Satoshi Vision as Bitcoin, not BTC, but I understand most people see BTC as that. So to a point, I agree with that. But then also, if it's a privacy coin, I could understand why people, that are of high net worth might want to use one of those to facilitate the transaction instead of BTC, because that is on a public blockchain where privacy coins, they have ring signatures and they are mixing and all these other things to keep the user more anonymous. But that's going to be a whole nother thing in the future that I'm sure will become like a specialty, like real estate brokerage or something like that. That's probably not going to come up in most everyday transactions. With the people that hold the crypto, they don't actually hold it in a wallet. It be a little bit alarming because you're keeping crypto on an exchange. It's more susceptible to being hacked and things like that, and you would really hate to see that happen in the middle of your real estate transaction. It's not something that happens every day, but there are Mt. Gox scenarios that have happened. And while you're advising your clients, I would say make sure that while they're holding the crypto, if they're a little bit newer to this, make sure that they're holding it on a wallet where they control their keys. If they're into crypto, they would know that already anyways. But some of these people that are kind of in the middle ground where they're like, this is popular, I want to get into it, but they don't really understand how the tech works. I would say that would help keep the transaction a little bit more seamless and less volatile.
I would say that the folks that actually are ready to get exposure to crypto by selling their property, they definitely have to be educated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just, they're getting the... Sorry, you get some sun there.
I only get this for 2 weeks of December, and then the sun shifts, and so I'm like, every year I'm like, should I buy blinds? And then this happens, right? But I'm getting a suntan. But I wanted to add to Melissa and Piper. As a broker and as agents, we want to make sure that the buyer, let's say we've done the due diligence and, they're holding Bitcoin, they're holding an altcoin, regardless, we think they can perform. I think, making sure in the exchange or wherever they're holding it, either it's in the exchange or the wallet, that they've got enough proof of funds that can cover any kind of variability in the market. Like right now we're in a bull market, but if it goes down in the next 24 hours, we need to see what the volatility looks like. So even if it's at its lowest point, we still can perform on the sale of the asset, because then we could be, as a fiduciary for our client, be putting them in danger of not being able to, especially a buyer, right? They might not be able to perform. So we want to make sure that we get a proof of funds, and the proof of funds is viable.
Definitely.
Really. Yeah. Just quick question.
Just a second, Scott and Cherie, it's a great point for your customer. If the seller will end up doing this transaction, then for sure the buyer would need to provide proof of funds. Have you requested proof of funds, by the way?
Not yet, no, because we hadn't even got to the point where we decided to look at the property. I mean, all he's seen is online. So he's in another state.
Yeah.
And I would maybe consider a screenshot, but when we do this with cash transactions, you want to make sure that none of, the keys or any of the account numbers and all that stuff is potentially blacked out, or maybe you have it printed and you Sharpie it out and just do it kind of old school and scan it back in, because you just you want to make sure you're protecting the buyer as well.
So my question is, proof of funds, how because I know nothing about Bitcoin, how do I know that it's proof of funds? How do I know that it's legit?
Well, you can check on a block explorer, right? I mean, you can look up the hash and make sure that that amount is to that wallet.
Okay.
Explain what that is, Melissa. You're
I probably sounded like
Lost, like the green.
Yeah, reach out to Melissa or myself or Piper. There are ways to understand, so they can send you a screenshot. I own X amount of Bitcoin. Then you want to understand that that's their account. And in order to do so, you can ask them for their wallet, for their address, and send them 1 cent worth of Bitcoin and see that it goes there. And then, as Melissa said, on any Explorer, you can actually check that your funds got into their address.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit geeky, but it's exciting. Melissa, sorry, I interrupted you. You had a question.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask the people that have successfully closed a transaction, was it the full purchase price or was it just like a combination of fiat and maybe they wanted to do the down payment in crypto? Because then there would be less volatility if they were just doing like a portion of it.
In Proppy case, we had full cryptocurrency transactions. The majority of our transactions are in dollars, but whenever we have crypto, normally it's just the full amount in crypto. Piper, how about you?
All of mine have been crypto to cash, full price. No financing, nothing like that. But I have like, back in the day, I'm sure I'll get more now, but I was getting kids that all of a sudden made a bunch of money and that but they wanted to put a down payment down and then finance the rest and whatever, but we'll see more of those, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Great. One more topic that I wanted to discuss regarding crypto payment is the motivation of crypto sellers, those who want to sell a property in cryptocurrency. Very often they get to agents that are excited about crypto, and those agents are advising customers to sell a property in Bitcoin because they consider that this is the way to get more PR, to get the better price and so on. And that probably was the case in 2017 with few first transactions. How about now, Piper? Let's start with you then, Sarah.
Well, the last one, the one in Mexico, I'll use him as an example. We were on the phone for quite a while, and he was very savvy, and he actually saw the value add in selling this really unique property in Bitcoin. It wasn't, I don't think he had any interest in, gaining PR from it or anything like that. He was a successful investor. He was using, Wave Financial. They did, a lot of really great investments for him. So he was excited about that. And so, now with the uptick of crypto, he just thought this was a good idea. It was a good time to position it for that. So yeah. And then I've gotten other, especially in the downturn, when it was like $3,000, I would get calls from people who were like, yeah, I just want to get the exposure. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to buy right now, so it just depends really. But most of the sellers have been, pretty legit and just wanting to have it done because they like crypto.
That's great. Sarah, how about you? What if you have a seller that is telling you that they are willing to sell a house in Bitcoin and they expect higher price, better exposure, and so on? You're muted, Sarah. Sarah, you're muted.
Sorry, I haven't had the scenario yet, but I am anticipating it based on the buyers that are coming into the market. With Phoenix being kind of, the epicenter second to Austin, I can see a lot of people wanting to do it for the hype. But at the same time, they're probably going to get the price they want, regardless if they're using fiat or crypto, just because the market is so hot and we've got, year over year, 40% less inventory in Phoenix alone. So it probably will be able to be successful on both fronts if somebody were going to want to trade Bitcoin for Bitcoin or to do some kind of cash out as well.
Yeah, great point. Totally agree. Melissa, what do you have anything to add?
Well, I originally knew about Proppy because I did a video on you guys when I worked for the blockchain education company. And then I revisited Proppy when I was trying to sell a property. And I was like, maybe this would get us some extra PR if we list it and we accept crypto. And we ended up going under contract before we needed to do that. But I still think it would have been a pretty good idea. And I was in the Chicago market, and I think there's only one property that I know of that has successfully closed involving crypto. So you would think in that market it would be a lot more cases, but not yet.
Yeah.
Question. A couple of you mentioned the PR. So who's this PR for? The real estate agent? Is that what you're referring to?
It's both for PR, it's PR for the agent as well as the property. More exposure to the property. Let's say this new fantastic listing now is available in Bitcoin, and some media outlets have been covering those listings before. Now probably some of the reporters will still do that, but it's really hard to get attention to reporters at this point, because they've been a number of transactions, and it's almost like it's getting to mainstream, I believe. But the agent as well. Sarah, for example, did you get any additional attention to your brokerage when you did the first transaction on blockchain?
Oh, absolutely. And, it definitely helps. I mean, I consider us a forward-thinking brokerage just in terms of the way we leverage traditional technology, more or less emerging tech like blockchain. So absolutely, it helps legitimize and make us look like we're on the forefront of technology, which I like. So definitely our ad agency gobbled that up, and there was lots of posting around that. There was a lot of blogging. The news channels did pick it up, some of the local. I was on various podcasts about it. I know I was on something with Piper. Piper, you and I were on something with the blockchain community. I know ASU picked it up. So absolutely. Blockchain isn't as much of a buzzword as Bitcoin is. And a lot of people don't really understand how they're connected. But either way, and I think it just helps for sure. There was no negative publicity at all around our transaction.
Fantastic. Yeah, Cherie, thank you so much for this question. And then Piper, she was on stage at Inman several times, and so many webinars, articles, and so on, because she was in those transactions. So as an agent, she was definitely get a lot of eyes from reporters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was so weird. I didn't even, we had like a little write-up in a local paper here, in Manhattan Beach, when the first one, and honestly, the guy just didn't understand it. He just thought it was really novel and okay, great. But then, I did 4 more and I didn't really think about it. And then I spoke at the International Blockchain Real Estate Association conference in New York at the end of 2017. And I had at that point I had done 4. And I thought I was so naive. I thought, oh, people are just doing this. What do they want to know about, and I emerged out of that panel as a rock star. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And then that's when it just
blew up.
And then all that stuff. And then I spent 2018 just speaking all over. It was crazy. So that's how that started for me.
Yeah, definitely. It provokes a lot of interest. And with Proppy, we've been covered by BBC News, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and many articles. You can go online and check. So we don't know if that will be the case in 2021. Because again, I think Bitcoin and blockchain are becoming more mainstream. And the first transaction on blockchain was done first, via Bitcoin was done first, crypto to crypto was done. So probably reporters will not pay as much attention as they used to, but we never know. So this is why we have to stay innovative, tech driven. And with that being said, I'd love to move to the second part of our conversation about blockchain. And we have Willie, my co-host here. Hi, Willie. Yeah, I'd love you to ask questions about blockchain to our guests.
Sure. So I guess I'll start off with Piper because we've spoken about this in the past, but when I talk to clients on a daily basis, storage of documents for a number of reasons, compliance can be messy, and obviously there's so many parties involved in a transaction. And if you have to reference those down the road, it can just be a nightmare trying to go back and access that. So how does blockchain make that more efficient?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, let alone, well, I'm going to give you guys a huge compliment here. I mean, just the Proppy platform alone, like having everything that's just organized for you and knowing everything is on the blockchain, you can go in and find a particular document, whatever that is. You don't have to search your files anymore. It's all uploaded and it's timestamped and it's on the blockchain. So that it just saves so much time. And, and again, we were touched on the transparency. There's no guessing involved. It's all right there. If there's ever a question, it's at your fingertips and it's immediate. So, I mean, that's, in a nutshell, what it means to me,
No, it certainly resonates with a lot of people. And then I guess I'll give this one to Sarah. So Sarah, in terms of security, obviously blockchain's an incredibly secure method of storage and exchanging information, and especially with lots of wire fraud and different things that happen when you exchange sensitive banking information. How does blockchain help to eliminate a lot of that?
Well, again, not a technologist, but from a user and somebody that's actually used the smart contracts on the Proppy platform, it's obviously secure. It was very, very easy to use. So, I mean, when it comes to, how secure it is for wire transfers, I can't speak to that because the money in our transaction was sent directly to title, and we just recorded the documents as a smart contract. However, I can speak to the user experience. And so it was as easy to log into, sign and execute a document more efficiently than was to actually use like a DocuSign or a hello sign. So from a user experience, I can only imagine how secure it is on the back end. On the front end, I mean, anybody of any age could have easily used this platform when I facilitated, and that was almost 3 years ago. So I'm sure the efficiency has gotten even that much better.
Yeah, definitely we evolved since then, but thank you for the kind words. And I think maybe it makes sense to actually elaborate how we use blockchain in Proppy. So we utilize smart contracts, Ethereum smart contracts. And every single step of a transaction is recorded on a smart contract. So you received a signature with DocuSign integrated in Proppy. We put this signature on the blockchain as a record. So it's immutable. Nobody can ever delete this record from the blockchain. Then we received, let's say, title report, the proof of clean ownership. We then create a hash of this document, and we put this hash onto the blockchain through smart contract. Again, immutable. Then in the end of the transaction, when the deed is recorded, we again create a hash of this PDF with a stamp that it's recorded, and we put this hash again on the blockchain, and it's mutable. Thus, if something happens with the transaction in a year or 2 year perspective, we can always go back and check whether that's the same document was uploaded to us, because we can compare the hash of the document on our system today versus tomorrow. And if it's the same, then we know that nobody had access ever to this document, that it's the same one document, and we can provide it as an evidence in courts. So the good news that the many states in the United States have blockchain laws enforced that explain what is blockchain, what is smart contract, what is cryptocurrency. And many of those laws actually say that the blockchain record is an evidence in courts because of its immutability. So if a county lost an information, if a brokerage lost an information, or agent moved to another brokerage and they lost information, and there is some claim that is not covered by title insurance, then this blockchain record is the source of truth, so to say. But moving forward, we even want to get further and use smart contract. Smart contract, it's not a purchase agreement. Smart contract is a technology on top of the blockchain that allows, when conditions are met, something to happen, an event to happen based on some conditions. And our dream at Proppy is the ownership to be transferred as an event to happen when every single step in the transaction is executed. And our goal is actually to make it automatically through smart contracts. So I don't want to be too nerdy today and get too much into details, but just from high level, I hope I got you curious enough so that you would want to ask questions and learn about it on Proppy, on blogs. Piper and Sarah, they've been doing those transactions. And by the way, do you have any sources that you would recommend to read? Piper, Sarah, Melissa, maybe Cherie, you also learned about some sources where you can read about blockchain so that real estate folks can learn.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I was first starting out, you know, and starting to speak about it, I'm like, I need to learn about this. I went to blockgeeks.com. I think that they speak, you know, non-technical to, you know, people like us. And there's actually like a basic, I hope it's still there. There was like a basic blockchain course, you know, for non-technical people. So I highly recommend them.
So I listened to a podcast called The Pomp, P-O-M-P. His name is Anthony Pompliano, and he's a thought leader in the blockchain community. And so I now get his newsletter. I subscribe to that, and I listen to him weekly. He's got all different kinds of industries on there, but it's more fintech and so associated more around the business side of crypto. But he's amazing. Highly recommend.
Yeah, totally. He's more focused not only on crypto now, but also motivation. Leadership. So it's a great podcast, regardless if you're interested in crypto or not. Totally support that. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think Nate Martins with 99 Bitcoins does a really good job for beginners breaking things down. And he does weekly, you know, this is what happened in crypto. He does vocab ones. He does more high level stuff. And he does like 2-minute explainer videos. The Blockchain Institute is where I used to work. It's a physical building in Chicago. So if you have anyone in that area that feels really confused about it and they're really nervous, they don't know how to download a wallet, they could go there in person and they could have somebody walk them through it. And they have like a Bitcoin ATM there, so they can guide you through how to use those as well. So there's some of those kinds of things popping up that are like brick and mortar resources that can help people. A lot of people are very nervous because there's a lot of good information on the internet, and then there's also a lot of bad information on the internet. And yeah, I'll leave it there because anything else is going to be just like too nerdy.
Sure. By the way, I just recall that we actually have a course, Crypto Certified Agent course, where we have 7 sessions. One of the sessions is led by Piper, and Piper is announcing a new course, new group starting in January. So if you go to proppy.com, on the very bottom, you can see a Crypto Certified course. And so those 6 parts cover how to set up a wallet, what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain, how to differentiate crypto currency versus blockchain, and how to make transactions in real estate. What is tokenization? Tokenization in real estate, it's another huge topic that we will not talk about today, but maybe sometime. Yeah, so go ahead and check it out if you want to really get into that. And Melissa would love to have you there, because you definitely have a lot of knowledge. Cherie, did you had any cool sources when you got this request?
No, when you guys started talking, I was like wanting to write them all down. So no, I mean, a lot of times when something like this comes up, something new and different, I reach out to real estate agents, like lab coat agents, and kind of depend on them to get me started. But since I knew you guys were doing this webinar, I didn't do anything. I just said, I'll just wait and learn as we go. So I haven't found anything, but I'm going to look into those.
Great. And do you have any questions that remain because of this request?
Not anything directly. I have a million plans running around my head, and I feel like I need to back up and start learning some things, but I'm very interested in learning about property.
Great. Yeah, well, whenever you have questions, make sure to reach out to us or Piper or anyone here on the webinar, because this will be more and more often, and I'm really happy that you took it seriously and reach out to the community to hear their feedback.
Always interested in learning something new, especially when my 13-year-old told me I should have done it 10 years ago. I mean, my 13-year-old then. So anyway.
So he's 23 now?
He will be 23 in January.
Oh, that's cute. I love that.
Yeah, he's in the Army, and during his free time, he's learning to invest in stock, and he's been doing that about 6 months and doing really well with it. So
is
he's always had kind of, very motivated when it comes to money.
So is he investing in Bitcoin?
He he would have loved to back in the day, but now that it's $20,000 a coin, he's just like, it's one of those things he'll always blame mom and dad, you know.
It's not over yet. It's gonna
very early.
that by the end of next year, probably.
Very
Really?
early. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll let him know, and of course, I'm gonna share these sources too, because he's got time to learn right now.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll make sure to make a blog post about this webinar, and we'll post all those resources there with links so that the folks here can learn more. Willie, what was the first question for you as a part of the Proppy team when you had conversations with broker owners, with agents? For yourself, what was your question on like how to understand why we have blockchain here?
So I had very limited knowledge. I had a finance background, trading stocks, but still had a very limited knowledge of crypto. So I was very curious to understand. I think that people get confused a lot with blockchain and crypto, and they kind of put the two together as the same thing, which they're obviously not. So I remember in some of the initial conversations during my onboarding, I was fascinated with how just the whole concept of using crypto for real estate purchases could really transform the industry. And one of the things that I've been fascinated by, we haven't touched on it today, but the tokenization of real estate assets and how that could make real estate, which is traditionally one of the most illiquid assets, instantly liquid, and how that would affect prices and ownership and, allow partial ownership. And I think that that's something that is pretty exciting going forward. And real estate's always slow moving to adopt technology. So to see them move to that, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think that there's no fighting it. We're going to get there just because it's so much more efficient. But I've had a great, it's been 6 months now, just learning more about Bitcoin and crypto, and now my eyes are completely open to the value in terms of its applicability to real estate.
Great, thank you. Well, I think to wrap up this call, before I announce the award, I'd love everyone here to actually make the final the final thought to share on what did you learn from this space, from crypto and blockchain and real estate. What was the biggest lesson that you learned through this journey? Piper, do you want to start?
Oh my God, I was hoping somebody else would go first.
Okay. I have so many.
Maybe Cherie, I know you're muted now, but can you share what was your biggest learning?
Learning experience about.
What did you learn?
We're kind of confused on the question. I'm sorry. Come in.
Yeah, the question is, what did you learn from your case? What did you learn about blockchain or crypto? What did you learn from the space or from your case?
I mean,
Mostly that we needed more education in this area in order to be able to use it.
yes,
That was my biggest takeaway personally.
he's right.
Of course, I am not a tech guy.
Yeah.
So
This is my diesel guy. You know, if it runs on diesel, he can do whatever. And my background's in the computer industry. So of course, as real estate agents, we joke around all the time and say, as together we make one really good agent, because I'm the tech side and he's also a builder, land developer, you know, so he knows all the real estate end
it's
of
the
things.
hands-on.
Yeah. So, but because we're a small business, we always strive to let people know that just because we're a small mom and pop's business, that we have the same technology that everybody else has available to them. But on top of that, we try to be a little bit ahead, and that's why we're curious about this. And we're gonna do a lot of research, a lot of studying. We live in a very rural area, so we don't see it happening as quickly here.
That's why we've lost you 2 or 3 times. If you see us go away, we've lost internet at least 3 times since we started.
Yeah, that squirrel, he just got to keep running on it. Whenever he stops, the internet goes down.
We noticed that. Well, fantastic. I think that's a sign of Bitcoin going mainstream, not only in financial world, which is true. Like all the major institutions are all over crypto now, but also Bitcoin is going mainstream in real estate industry. With your example here, and what I'm hearing, the recommendation is keep learning, even though when it feels a little bit frightening. Piper, have you come up with a?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I'm kind of to speak to, you know, what Cherie and Scott were talking about. You know, I think, I mean, there's so many facets to, you know, blockchain and crypto. I guess what I would want agents to know is that you don't have to know it all. There are resources out there and people out there that can help you. And I mean, my God, I'm definitely not a coder. You know, if I have questions, I call Natalia. I call, you know, somebody who knows, you know, a lot more than me. I've got, you know, people in the fintech space. I've got, you know, people in the escrow space, you know, that are in the blockchain and all that. So it's, if you can assemble a team, it's kind of like a microcosm of what, you know, what blockchain's all about. You know, it's public, it's decentralized, it takes a village, you know. And I think I've met so many amazing people that have helped me in the process, because there's no way I could have done this by myself. No way.
So your learning is that you need to create a team.
Absolutely. I think that's where you're strongest. I mean, you know, because you just have to build that. And there's so many great resources out there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Melissa?
Well, I haven't successfully had a closing happen with using this technology, but I have learned all the ways that closings would have been amazing with it had I had it, especially for condos or care homes, which I was kind of working on for a while. Like with this condo scenario, the ownership percentages were never filed with the city. How? How did that happen ever? You know, it's been like over 10 years this condo's been established. That means the city clerk messed up. That means the attorneys messed up. The other agents, like nobody checked the paperwork. And if it was on a blockchain, I would be able to look at it and be like, hey, we're missing a page here. But because it's been something that the city has had as the record, you can't tell that before you actually go and close on the property. And you don't know what you're walking into. And the books of the condo were a mess too. And if that kind of stuff had been on a blockchain, okay, if you want to buy a deal, then you can know that going into it. But if you think you're getting a deal and then you get a lemon, it makes a difference. I mean, we're getting this kind of technology. You can even figure out like what the utility bills were, which can help renters. It can help when you're trying to purchase, like it just can help you figure out the budgeting of what you can actually qualify for and what other added costs might turn up in the future. So I'm super excited to talk some more about, you know, the tokenization and some more use case things, because just holding government accountable and checking their records is going to be a huge, huge thing with this technology. I mean, I had to hunt down the retired lawyer, and luckily he hadn't wiped his hard drive yet to get the ownership's percentages. Otherwise, I would have had to pay a lawyer to do that after it should have been done the first time. So just having that immutable record where you can hold accountable who messed up and see that, you know, you can't delete errors, you can only upload then the correct versions. It's going to be a game changer for this industry, and I'm so excited to see it happen. And I just want to give Proppy some love too, because when I did that video on you guys and some other companies that were going to disrupt the real estate industry, before today's talk, I kind of looked up like how many of them are still around, how many of them are still active. You guys are the only ones I saw that have like a social media presence. All the other ones like haven't posted anything in a while. So either they're going along, but they're kind of limping, or they've kind of just dropped off. But you guys are, you know, consistently growing. You're consistently working with like title companies and governments and things like that. And I wish you would use Bitcoin SV, but I understand Ethereum was the only option at the time. So I love you guys and I want to keep supporting you guys.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. And definitely we wouldn't be here if not users like Sarah, like Piper, all of those folks that use the system for the first time, that were brave enough to embrace it, because to be the first in that space, it was tough. We had to have like legal opinion letters and so on. And so that was tough, but now it's getting easier and easier. So thank you so much for your love. And so the main learning for Melissa, as I'm hearing from the theoretical point of view, is traceability. That blockchain provides an opportunity to trace a transaction, to make it possible to track every single step, and every single step is immutable. Thank you for that. Sarah, how about you?
Well, kind of playing off Piper a little bit, and what she said is, you know, you're never going to know it all. And there is so much to learn, and you can leverage your resources. But, you know, back in, you know, the late and the mid 90s, when the internet came out, everyone was pretty freaked out about it because they didn't understand it. And I think there's a little bit of that fear around this as well. And you don't need to know. I mean, I remember somebody telling me what a TPC protocol was or something like that back in the day when the internet came out. You don't need to know what that stuff means for it to make sense and for it to be easy to use. And I found that the platform, everything is just, it's easy. So you don't have to overthink it. I think you can simplify the use of this without having to get all technical.
Great. Yeah, great point. Yeah, the learning here is that you don't have to understand all the technicalities of blockchain in order to use it, because now there are tools like Proppy and hopefully others will appear that make it easy from the user experience. It's like with Bitcoin, if you're not techie, even though Melissa doesn't suggest that, but I would recommend to start using Coinbase for smaller investments.
Don't keep your coins on Coinbase. If you use it, take them off on something like Exodus. Use a wallet where you hold your crypto. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. The point is that there are user-friendly platforms that can help you get into a technology that sound hard, but it's really easy to use. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for everything you shared. And I hope it was also useful for you to learn from each other. Looking forward to connecting with you all. Now we will announce the award winner. So again, we had a Transparency Award 2021, and we've got thousands of votes on different agents that were nominated by themselves or by the community. And we can congratulate with $1,000 prize, which could be received in cash or Bitcoin by the choice of the winner. And the winner is Pete Zizi. He got 142 votes. So congrats to Pete, we're very, very excited. He won this award, and it seems like his community, his customers supported him and voted for him. So congrats, Pete. And then our next contest will be on transparent offers. So agents that are using Proppy and those who will have the many, many offers, those that will have the majority of offers will receive $1,500, again, by their choice in cash or Bitcoin. So with that, thank you so much for our guests here. We will, after we'll say goodbye to the guests, we will stop live streaming and we'll share some of the updates of the product. Thank you so much, Sarah, Melissa, Scott, Cherie, Willie, Piper. Thank you.
Thank you.